Follow. That's why got ladies night.
Okay, up next, the zookeepers.
Hi, judges. Good afternoon. I will be presenting for the zookeepers. Our name is called zookeepers because we use a lot of animals. Okay, moving on. So I'll dive right in now. The team is largely distributed up into architecture, civil, and mechanical. And within architecture, civil, mechanical, there are sub-teams. So computational team, design team, tech team, structural engineer, and M&E engineer. Roughly, this is the specifications, but of course, we do overlap in some of our taskings. I'll just talk now first about the architectural concept. So I think repeated a lot today is this key idea of touching Coney Island as lightly as possible. And so that's one of our key design intents. And that key design intent of touching Coney Island as lightly as possible has guided a lot of our design decisions. So that includes keeping our building height as low as possible. So the building height is capped at a maximum of 3 stories. We also wanted to integrate the design into the natural site as much as possible through design and the appropriate materiality. Another thing is also we wanted to have a certain adjacency of spaces between the working spaces and the natural environment. But leading to the key concept or the architectural concept is this idea of trying to reduce the amount of tree felling as much as possible. And so how we did that was that we actually marked out, we marked out the positions on trees. So how we got the position of the trees on site is through government data, QGIS, as well as on-site survey. And from these positions of the trees, we represented them as points on the site. And using those points, we generated a Voronoi grid. So what this Voronoi grid achieves for us is that the Voronoi grid actually creates this grid of pathways through the site that completely evades all of the trees, allowing for all the existing trees to stay in the same position. And so using that Voronoi grid, we used a shortest path algorithm to connect 4 main nodal points around the site using the shortest path through the Voronoi grid generated. And moving on to the architectural massing, we then selected the Voronoi cells generated at the appropriate area and extruded them as architectural massing. And what we realized is that by introducing courtyards within those extruded volumes, we could create an architectural massing that completely evaded all of the trees on site, so reducing the amount of tree felling as much as possible. We then also introduced a secondary path to allow for vertical circulation, and also the 3 main programmatic clusters that we've identified is the waste management, agri-tech in green, as well as public. So in this plan, hopefully this can show you clearly how the Voronoi grid is generated through the use of the positions of trees, existing trees on site. So in terms of ecology, we try to retain as much as possible the existing site without disturbing as much, without disturbing the ecosystem. And then the extruded volumes in terms of the Voronoi cells with the introduction of courtyards allows us to create a massing that evades all of the trees. And the yellow is the main circulation path. And so there's this design intent to create adjacency between the co-working spaces with the natural environment through the use of the interior courtyards and the external facade. Moving on then to our design workflow. So we use actually quite a lot or multiple computational softwares to generate our design. And so what we try to do is that in terms of survey, we use government data as well as on-site survey, hardware, robotics to carry out survey onto mapping platforms. Moving on from there, what we did also, we tried to use the data collected from the survey and input them into multiple computational softwares. And what these computational softwares do is these multiple computational softwares cater to the different categories such as environmental or structure in the place of consultants, and it helps to aid us in our design decisions and also making more accurate design decisions. So for example, the data collected from the survey can be input into a computational software that generates architectural elements with associated qualities and quantities. And these architectural elements can then be directly fed into our BIM softwares for documentation and construction. So let's touch more on the structure. We'll give you an example of how we did it. We are using glue laminated timber and CLT panels, so glue laminated timber frames and CLT panels for structure. Reason for using those materials is integration with nature, also lesser embodied energy and better sustainability. And so we use robot structure to do our initial feasibility study. We simulated uniform distributed loads and also to generate a bending moment diagram and a deformation diagram. And so what this, we tried to retain a certain accuracy of our initial feasibility study by incorporating all of the properties of the timber material that we're using. Moving on from the robot structure, we then use Karamba 3D. So what Karamba 3D allowed us to do was it allows us to generate, it allows us to auto-generate the depth of the beam based on the load, the span, and the material. And once Karamba 3D has generated the structural system, we input that structural system into Galapagos, which is an optimization software. And that optimization software helps to optimize the beam positions in order to maximize the standardized beam, maximize the number of standardized beams, reducing the number of customized beams necessary, therefore increasing the efficiency of fabrication and construction. So moving on, our DFMA strategy we have incorporated is a kit of parts or sub-assembly system using glue-lam frames and CLT panels. So the key intent here is basically to try to maximize the amount of, maximize the number of assemblies that can happen off-site within each sub-components. So this is the assembly of the floor component, assembly of the beam component, assembly of the column component, then the assembly of the beam component with the consideration of MEP and services, and then assembly of the facade components, all of this happening off-site. And on-site, so we have these 6 sort of key prefabricated components off-site, and on-site, the main superstructure will be assembled first. So again, the key intent here again is to maximize assembly off-site, and then on-site try to minimize the amount of assembly needed. Sorry, it's lagging a bit. Sorry. Yeah, so once the superstructure is up, the facade, the interior balustrades, as well as the roof, once the roof is finished, the facades, balustrade, and the MEP components can come in simultaneously. Okay, so moving on to, we also use Navisworks and a Gantt chart to help us to estimate the rate of production as well as the overall production duration, overall construction duration. So based on our estimates, it's about 13 months. And so Gantt chart also allows us to identify our key critical paths and sequences. Moving on from there, we also use Autodesk Insight. So what Autodesk Insight allows us to do was to estimate the amount of daylight received within each interior space, because one of our key considerations here is also to keep the floor plans as narrow as possible to maximize the daylight penetration into the interior spaces. Autodesk Insight also allows us to estimate the areas on the roof with the maximum amount of potential PV energy, and therefore informing us where to place the solar panels. In terms of facade generation, what we tried to do here is to use Ladybug to generate a solar irradiance map onto our facade geometries. So once we have that solar irradiance map onto our facade geometries, we then could use Skin Designer, which is another software that could auto-dispatch the corresponding panels onto the solar irradiance map. So what this means in essence is that areas where areas where they experience the most solar irradiance, that's where the facade will have denser louvers. So actually there are 2 governing laws that govern our facade generation. The first is a randomizer that randomizes the layout between type A, type B, and type C panels. And then the solar irradiance map then governs the density of the louvers within each type. So what this allows us to do, the algorithm also automatically modifies the form to fit the modularization of the facade panels. So with the randomization and the solar radiance map, the key design intent for the facade was to create some sort of randomized sporadic facade as a response to the spontaneous verticality of the site, the trees on site. That generated facade is then input into Autodesk CFD, where it could help us to estimate the possibilities of natural ventilation and cross ventilation through the facade generated. Then in terms of energy usage, the EUI, after factoring all of the renewable energy, which includes PV, biomass, and also passive design strategies such as trying to minimize air conditioning to about 10% for the whole area, for the whole project, as well as to maximize daylighting. The EUI comes down to about 32 kWh per meter square per year. So that's the EUI. And also Navisworks was used to help us smoothen our collaborative workflow as well as to identify any clashes. And some collaborative platforms that we use is Trello, Discord, and of course Google Drive to help us to assign tasks, to update progress, and also to sync up our design processes. So just some short reflections. I think one of the biggest learning curves that we have was to learn all the different computational softwares. And I think what we realized, I think speaking on behalf of the team, is that we realized how powerful these computational softwares could be, and we really want to hope that this could be a starting point into incorporating all of these different softwares into our design processes from now on. So we're going to show you a video of the overall project, and after that I think we'll pass down some VR AR tech that you can interact with. Then after that also, we also can change a few scenes for the VR and AR for you to experience. Oh, yeah, sorry. AR, sorry. Yeah, we'll bring up some VR, some AR stuff that you guys can interact with while greeting us, I guess. Yeah.
Maybe can I say something?
They got something else.